Digital transformation slows down when companies try to move faster by doing more. Leaders expand project lists, add new technologies, and push dozens of initiatives at once, but the result is overload and stalled progress. Today, we look at a global consumer goods company that broke this pattern.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are tackling one of the most frustrating paradoxes in business: digital transformation overload.
Right.
It seems so intuitive that if you want to be more digital, you just, launch more initiatives, invest in every new piece of tech, spin up endless pilots.
And yet, for so many big organizations, that effort doesn't lead to acceleration. It leads to inertia. I mean, doing more just means you're spinning in place, exhausting your resources.
And strategy becomes completely chaotic.
Exactly. Reactive and, in the end, slow.
And that is the wall this global consumer goods company hit. And
Yeah.
they hit it hard. They had all the ingredients for success, but the recipe was just a total mess.
Yeah.
They were running over 40 distinct digital initiatives at the same time, yet the measurable results were, well, basically non-existent.
Their entire transformation was just sinking under the weight of its own ambition.
So our mission today is to analyze the precise, structured steps they took, the diagnosis and the really painful act of prioritization that let them get back in control.
It's a deep dive into how they focus their fire to unlock real quantified value. We're talking over $4.5 million in operational efficiency and new revenue growth.
In less than a year.
In less than a year.
That gain is proof that this isn't about crushing innovation or saying no to good ideas. It's about having the clarity and really the courage to say a decisive yes to the handful of things that truly move the financial needle. Okay, let's unpack this and start with what that internal chaos actually looked like.
Well, this company, on paper, they looked great. They were highly invested in digital transformation.
They had a chief digital officer, an entire office set up.
Yep. They had clear mandates for AI use cases. They were deep into a big ERP modernization. And they even had multiple internal innovation programs all branded and running.
40 projects. Scatter across 7 different functions. From HR to the supply chain.
You can just imagine the state of the organization. They had the quantity, they had the budget, they had the talent, but because the strategy was so fragmented,
It just gets exhausted.
completely fatigued. And the middle managers were just confused about where to commit their time, and the business units themselves were openly skeptical of the whole thing.
That tension was, you can just feel it was undeniable. The quotes we have from the source material are so telling.
Oh, yeah.
You can just hear the exasperation. The chief digital officer just staring at this sprawling mess and admitting, we're busy and we've never been busier, but for all that activity, are we actually effective?
And then you have the COO, the chief operating officer, echoing that exact same frustration. He said they were drowning in ideas. His words were, we have too many good ideas and absolutely no filter.
But the moment it all came to a head, I think, was the blunt check from the CFO.
Right.
They just cut through all of that noise with 3 words.
Where's the ROI?
Exactly. Where's the ROI? And that question, it just highlights the core problem. If every single project is a priority,
Then nothing is. Precisely. A lack of rigorous prioritization is the silent killer in these big transformations. Projects compete against one another for the same limited budget, the same engineering talent.
the same sliver of executive attention.
Right. And when you let 40 initiatives run wild, your strategy isn't a roadmap. It's just a massive, unmanageable wish list.
So that raises the big question. When you're already overwhelmed and running at 150% capacity, how do you even manage to step back and cut through all that noise?
Well, they realized they didn't need another brainstorming session. They didn't need another roadmap.
They needed a diagnosis.
An honest diagnosis.
Uh-huh.
A factual, evidence-based mirror held up to the entire organization.
So they gathered 22 senior leaders, the entire leadership bench from marketing, sales, supply chain, finance, IT, HR, product, for a full-day moderated assessment. They used the Digital Maturity Index, or DMI.
And this wasn't just a survey you fill out and forget. It was an intensive exercise. It was designed to force those 22 executives to step out of the weeds of their own projects and look at the company's digital health from a strategic level.
And the DMI score they got back was a 3.1 out of 5, which on the surface sounds pretty respectable.
It does. But the score itself wasn't the insight. The structure of the assessment revealed that they had strong technical foundations. The engine was built, so to speak.
So they scored well on things like operations and technology?
Exactly. But here's the critical failure point it brought to light. Huge critical weaknesses in strategic alignment and, most importantly, change management.
So in other words, they were technically competent?
but strategically dysfunctional. The engine was built, but the entire organization was trying to drive in different directions.
Yeah, this is where it gets really startling. The assessment uncovered massive, costly redundancy that was just destroying their budget and, frankly, their internal trust.
It did. They found that more than 15 of their 40-plus initiatives were unknowingly overlapping in scope.
Wait, unknowingly? You mean the teams didn't even know the others existed?
They had no idea. Think about the managerial absurdity of this for a second. They discovered 3 separate VP-led teams were building 3 different versions of a customer data platform.
With 3 different budgets competing for the same talent.
Yes. And across the factory floor, 5 separate automation pilots were running in complete isolation from each other. They were getting these little pockets of success, but zero organizational scale.
It's just astonishing that this could happen inside one company. And what about that AI pricing engine you mentioned?
Yes. They'd invested in cutting-edge machine learning to improve pricing, but the commercial teams, the people who were supposed to use it, refused to.
Why?
Because they knew the input data was unreliable. It was coming from all these fragmented, uncoordinated sources. So you have resources being spent on a technically great idea that was functionally useless because there was no coordination or trust.
So the assessment was really just the ultimate organizational mirror.
It was. The data proved, irrefutably, that valuable budget and labor were being wasted on duplication, not on strategic growth. It forced the leaders to look past all the activity and finally acknowledge that activity does not equal effectiveness.
Okay, so once they had this hard, evidence-based diagnosis, they needed a way to translate it into action.
Right. They used what they called a strategy cockpit visualization platform. This wasn't just a static dashboard. It was a dynamic tool that visually mapped all 40 initiatives.
Showing the resource consumption, the dependencies.
Everything. It forced the leaders to actually see where the clashes and the duplication were happening across the entire portfolio.
And that visualization enabled the crucial next step.
The big question. They gathered the leadership team and they posed one deceptively simple but incredibly high-stakes question. If you could only do 5 things this year, 5 programs to define our success, what would they be?
That's the moment of truth, isn't it? That question forces immediate triage. It demands a mindset shift from defending your own little turf to building synergy across the whole business.
It does. And they managed to cluster the 40-plus initiatives into 12 strategic themes first, and then began the really brutal process of picking the top 5 from that list.
Prioritization is painful. It requires real courage. They didn't just reorder projects.
No, they eliminated or postponed 14 different projects entirely.
Hold on. Cutting 14 projects sounds like a massive organizational trauma. How do they manage the internal politics? Imagine the people leading those projects were not happy.
They weren't, and that's the true test of leadership, right? It's why doing the DMI assessment before the cuts was so critical.
Because the cuts were based on neutral data.
Exactly. The data proved the resource conflicts and the lack of alignment. So the decisions were shielded from personality and politics. They weren't saying the ideas were bad. They were saying they couldn't be supported now without damaging the top 5.
And that rigorous cut freed up an immediate $2.3 million in budget.
And crucially, over 22,000 FTE hours. That's the labor equivalent of more than 10 full-time people for a year that could finally be pointed toward value creation.
That is a colossal amount of freed up resource. And those 5 high-impact priorities they landed on, they were inherently cross-functional.
They had to be.
They were. 1, a unified customer intelligence platform. 2, end-to-end supply chain digitization. 3, AI-powered commercial pricing optimization. 4, workforce digital capability development. And finally, number 5, agile product innovation cycles for their high-growth markets.
They moved from 40 things they were just dabbling in to 5 things they were committed to dominating.
And the business results that followed were the ultimate validation. Within just 9 months of focusing their resources on those 5 programs, the tangible, quantifiable gains topped $4.5 million.
Let's get into the specifics because the metrics matter. That supply chain digitization program, it wasn't just a pilot anymore. It reduced their lead times by 11%.
Which translated directly into saving $1.4 million in logistics costs.
Then there's the pricing optimization, the one that was initially crippled by bad data. Now that it was a priority, it delivered a 2.1% increase in average order margin.
Which added a massive $2.7 million in net revenue.
And on the customer side, That new unified intelligence platform increased their conversion rates by 16%.
But beyond the financials, the whole organizational mood changed.
It did. Internal stakeholder satisfaction with the digital program, it rose by 38% in their quarterly surveys. And this is the proof point. When people see projects delivering real measurable value because they're properly resourced, trust in the transformation grows exponentially.
It shifts the entire organizational posture. It was summarized perfectly by one of the SVPs. He said, "We're not chasing digital anymore, we're steering it."
And that shift from chasing to steering, that's the ultimate outcome here. This whole case study just proves that prioritization isn't about cleaning up a backlog. It's a fundamental strategic discipline.
Right, and it delivers outsized value in, really, 4 key ways that could apply to any complex organization.
First, it aligns everyone. When the whole organization sees and agrees on the same top 5 list, resource conflicts just drop, and decision-making speeds up.
Second, it protects attention. Your best people can finally focus their limited energy, which improves quality and prevents that systemic burnout we saw at the beginning.
Third, it rapidly accelerates ROI. You dedicate your budget and your best people to the highest impact work, you see results faster, and that creates momentum and buy-in.
And fourth, it just builds trust. When you consistently deliver because you're focused, confidence in the entire transformation effort soars, which makes the next change that much easier.
And this is critical. This is not a temporary fix. They institutionalized this discipline. They created a formal quarterly transformation forum.
And its only purpose was to revisit those top 5 priorities.
To revisit them, track progress rigorously, and manage resource allocation in real time. They essentially built better decision-making habits into their organizational DNA. I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, measurement is the true catalyst.
Yeah.
It forces you to understand where you are so you can make an informed choice about where you need to go.
So let's recap the core lesson here. Transformation isn't about doing everything. It is absolutely about having the rigor and, frankly, the courage to choose what matters most. This company reversed its chaotic path, not by hiring more people or buying more tech, but by stepping back, measuring the painful truth, and then prioritizing.
And the cost of not doing that is just too severe to ignore. Without this kind of structured prioritization, your truly great projects die in competition with merely good ones. Your resources are spread way too thin.
And your transformation stays chaotic and slow.
Exactly. In this world of overwhelming digital noise, clarity is, without a doubt, the ultimate competitive advantage.
So what does this all really mean? Transformation moves from being this frustrating aspiration to becoming a core business capability when you strategically combine assessment, forced prioritization, and continuous tracking.
The consumer goods company freed up that massive 22,000 FTE hours, real time and attention, simply by having the courage to say no to 14 projects that were just destined to fail or overlap.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought for you. What is the true hidden cost in time, in budget, in executive attention of the initiatives you're currently running that wouldn't even make your organization's undisputed top 5 list? Think about that as you define your next strategic move.